Welcome to the Grit and Grow podcast, where we talk to guests who are pursuing excellence in both sport and life, who encourage and motivate us to become better mentors, coaches, parents, and athletes. My name is Shane Sowden, head men's basketball coach at Briarcrest College, and also your co-host.
And my name is Justin Simpkins, co-host and director of Prairie Hockey Academy. Welcome back to the Grit and Growth podcast. On today's episode, we have the privilege of having Mano Watsa join us. Mano is the president and owner of Point Guard College Basketball, internationally known basketball camp where they now have over 20,000 campers every single year. Mano brings us a pile of wisdom. You can't help but notice the wisdom and knowledge he has, but also the humility that he just displays as he talks about coaching, making a difference in young kids' lives, and really the power to choose is a big piece that jumped out to me.
Yeah, Justin, what an episode, like all the way from going back to when Mano started running his own basketball camps out of his backyard at 15. It just seems like he was destined to run Point Guard College, and to see how it has grown to serving up to 20,000 campers each summer and the impact it's making on not only the basketball community, but just the athletic community, all the way from coaches to parents to kids. This was a crazy fun episode. So many nuggets to take away. Like it, share it, listen to it twice. It was fantastic.
Let's welcome Mano to our show. Mano, welcome to the Grit and Growth podcast. We've been eagerly anticipating and waiting for this episode, and so thank you for giving us your time today to join us.
Hey, my pleasure, Justin and Shane. Been looking forward to coming on with you both.
You know what? I just want to jump right to it, Mano. I think, we just introduced you as the president and owner of Point Guard College Basketball Camps, and I have a pile of respect for what you guys do at PGC and all over the world. But before we go deeper into that, I just think about from your backyard as a camp director at the age of 15 to leading the biggest basketball education network in the world today. What sparked that early camp for you, and what's kept you going all these years?
Yeah, what sparked it initially was the inability to get a real job. And I say inability to get a real job because I was attending several basketball camps in the summer, and I wanted to do something to just make a little pocket money, but I couldn't get anything that would take up my whole summer in light of wanting to be able to go to camps. And a friend of mine actually was talking about doing swim lessons at a local pool, and suddenly I thought, maybe I could do some sort of basketball lessons. And because I was already going to camps, then I thought, well, what if I actually just packaged it up as a camp? I was volunteering at my local elementary school, and I talked to the coach, and he thought it was a great idea. And so we already had some grade 4, 5, 6 players that wanted to come, and we had 8 kids the first week. We did it again later in the summer, or I did it again later in the summer. I had 9 kids, and I said, progress. And that was really the beginning. The next summer, we went from, I think, 1 hoop in the backyard to 2 or 3 hoops in the backyard, and we had 20 kids a week for 3 weeks. And by the time I got done high school, I think we had about 150 kids coming over 4 weeks. And by the time I got done at the University of Waterloo, 7-8 years later, we were up to about 400 kids a summer coming into my parents' backyard, about 100 kids a week. So, and that was really, I wasn't sure if that was the end of my camp journey, but it turned out to be just the beginning. And I had attended Point Guard College when I was in high school. Then the opportunity came full circle to get back involved. I jumped at the chance, stopped everything else I was doing, and have been helping to lead and grow PGC ever since.
Now, you were a camper at one point in time at PGC as well. Is that right? You had experienced it?
Yeah, I attended the original Point Guard College course going into my senior year of high school. Undersized, smallest player on every team I played on, trying to figure out how do I play bigger than my size? What does it take to get a scholarship or play at the next level? Big dream, small body from a small town where everyone just played hockey and baseball, small farming community. And I thought, how am I going to, reach this goal that I have? I just loved the game and wanted to keep playing, and was willing to do anything and everything to be able to play university basketball somewhere. And we saw a little ad in a basketball magazine that just said Point Guard College. I had no idea what it was, but we called, and I got a little brochure in the mail and read through the brochure and thought, I have to get there. There weren't any in Canada, so I flew down to South Carolina with PGC founder Dick DeVenzio, and that 5 days just changed everything.
Well, and I think I read or heard somewhere you were the first international camper to attend a PGC camp.
Yeah,
right?
and Dick did 7 or 8 camps at that point in time. They were already nationally acclaimed, but
Right.
in flying down from Canada, he picked me up at the airport and dropped me back at the end of the week. So I had a chance to talk with Dick in depth, and he knew my aspirations. And I said, "What do I need to do to play college in U.S.? Of course, they call it college. How to play college basketball, university basketball." And I'd given him and brought him one of my Watsa basketball camp T-shirts from my backyard camps, and I'd given it to him. And he said, "Mano, I haven't seen you as a camp director." He said, "But I have seen you as a basketball player, and I'm pretty sure you're a better camp director than you are a basketball player." Which really stung at the time. I think I stayed in touch with him, not just for his mentorship, but to prove him wrong and that I could be a successful basketball player. But at the end of the day, when I look back on it, he was actually right, because there's, millions of kids playing basketball, but there's not too many who, start running a basketball camp in their backyard at age 15. So I think what he was trying to say to me is, Mano, you're onto something and you're doing something unique, whereas there are literally hundreds of thousands of undersized point guards like you out there. And I think you've already got a niche, but I still wanted to go as far as I could in the game. And that 5 days at the Point Guard College course really just turned on the light bulbs for me for a way of being, of who I wanted to be as an athlete, as a teammate, as a leader, and even as a student, and then ultimately as a person. And so that was really it was a trajectory changer. And the rest is kind of history.
Well, speak into that just a little bit more. Like, how did that attending that first camp, that first 5 days, did all that? Like, that literally just a U-turn for your life.
Yeah. So here's what happened, and it happened on a lot of different. There were a lot of different layers to it. When my mom picked me up, when I flew back home, and we spent half the night just talking about everything that I had learned. And so many of the light bulbs that turned on were either things related to basketball specifically, like how do you actually use your lack of size to your advantage? Well, I'd always just thought of my size as a disadvantage. So learning ways to use my lack of size to my advantage was just new. And learning how to think the game and developing my basketball IQ. And so I went home with this increased confidence that I was the smartest player on the floor, and that I had all these tools in my tool belt to be able to outthink the opposition. And so it just gave me a huge confidence boost. It gave me a mental edge. And then I developed these skills and habits, which just proved to be highly effective. So something as simple as finishing off 2 feet and using fakes to be more powerful and more purposeful, and to be able to play fast and stop on a dime. And suddenly I was able to create separation from defenders, and I was able to look quicker than I was and play bigger than I was, because I was more poised and more powerful. So those were some of the things on the court. But the biggest lessons for me was what Dick taught about what making a contribution to a team really looks like. And what does it look like when you're subbing out of a game after a bad shift? Do you just kind of storm off the court with your head down and go kick the bench? Or do you just kind of walk by your teammate and give them a fist pound? Or do you welcome them into the game like an honored guest and give them the relevant information of who they're going to guard and what they need to know, and something encouraging to let them know, you've got this, go crush it, and make eye contact. I mean, that's a world of difference between just storming off the court in frustration and or being upset that coach subbed you out of the game. So there were 1,000,001. They were basketball lessons, but they were really life lessons.
Mhm.
You know, what are you going to do with a referee when they blow a call, or when the ball bounces out of bounds? Are you going to let the ref go chase the ball, or are you going to run and go get the ball for the referee and make their job just a little bit easier that day? Are you going to take the time to thank the opposing team's coach before the game for bringing their team, or are you're just going to be so self-focused on yourself and what you're doing? So there were literally 101 different ways that made me think, this is who I want to be. This is how I want to show up. This is ultimately the approach that I want to have as an athlete, as a teammate, including, of course, what it looks like to actually lead a team, and leadership being service. How do you serve your teammates? How do you put the needs of the group ahead of your own personal needs? All of those things just, they were stunning to hear, and Dick did it in such a entertaining and engaging and colorful and creative way that the lessons were just entrenched.
Love that story. And, PGC today has grown, right? It's, I think since 2007, I just saw those stats where it went from 1,000 campers a summer to well over 12,000 campers a summer now. And so
now we're closing in. This year we'll have about, including our fall camps, will now exceed 20,000.
Exceed 20,000. Incredible, Mano. and to think that, you've continued just to elevate the floor and the ceiling, let's say, of the experience of all the campers, that over 20,000 campers get to come to camp today and get to leave with, a new way of being, and just these truths in their life about what it means to just, you're only an attitude away of being a champion. That attitude choice is, there's no skill required to look your teammate in the eye and welcome him like an honored guest onto the court when you're subbing out. There's no skill. It's just a choice we make. And so I just think that's incredible to see that you're doing that. And a question we often ask other guests is, what is the best part of leadership to you?
I think the best part of leadership is seeing others fulfilled in what they're doing, and seeing others feel like they're maximizing their God-given potential and God-given gifts. So and for me, it's all about relationship. I love the impact that we have at Sessions. I've been running camps for 32 years now, and as much as I love the impact and seeing the change and sometimes even transformation in the athletes that we're working with, and I love seeing the light bulbs turn on the way they turned on for me, and I love seeing players fall in love with the game or fall deeper in love with the game. What really makes it most meaningful for me is actually the relationship with the staff, the coaches at the camp that you're taking the athletes through the experience with. And when you lead camp after camp and you're with some of these same staff members, and then they're with you year after year, some have been with us for 15, 20. I have one coach who's now in his 70s who's been coaching with me for all 32 years. And so for me, the most fulfilling part of leadership and leading others is the long-term relationships, and just the memories you create together, the journeys that you take together, really getting to know those that you're working with and leading, whether it's a coaching staff, and I've coached in the high school, university, club, whether it's the coaches that you work with every single day, or at camp, our staff, or for now with PGC, our year-round staff. And I just love that journey of growing with others over time and building something together with others.
It's such a fantastic answer. And I'm just even wondering, like, what's the best part about that? Like, dig even deeper. Like, what's the best part about those relationships with that staff? Like developing, walking through that journey with them. Like, what's the best part about that?
Yeah, for me, the journey of going through the ups and downs, the triumphs and the tragedies. Um, at one point in time, you're celebrating somebody who's just gotten their first job, or they're getting married. Over the past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to marry two different people who have worked with us,
Oh,
and
wow.
and seen that. And just a few days ago, one just had a baby and was just celebrating the birth of their first child.
Hmm.
And so the triumphs and the tragedies, and the setbacks and the adversity, and just going through that together. And at times, in my role, I have the opportunity to mentor a lot of our staff and a lot of young people, and just being able to support them in their journey, and to be able to help them find purpose, and help them find their passions, and help them find hope in the midst of setbacks and challenges and failures, and to help them find deeper purpose. Faith is an integral part of my life and my walk through life. And so even just being able to journey with people on the life's biggest questions, and what are we really here for, and
Right.
why, what is bringing you meaning and purpose in life. That's what really I think what I love the most, going deep.
Hey, it's Justin here. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I'm a coach, a husband, and a father to 3 busy kids. A couple years ago, one of our daughters was really struggling with her sleep and her breathing and crowding in her mouth. At that point in time, we started looking into things that could help her. And I'm proud to say that we came across a company called SaskMyo. The team at SaskMyo was incredible with our daughter in helping us figure out a solution for her health. The team at SaskMyo made a real difference in her life, in her breathing, in the crowding in her mouth, and in her airways overall. My daughter's back to sleeping better, not grinding her teeth at night, and being able to just breathe, which goes a long way in her physical development. If you have a child that you're concerned about, whether they're snoring, mouth breathing, grinding their teeth at night, struggling with feeding, or just overall mouth development, take my advice. Reach out to saskmyo.com. Their team there will offer consultations and incredible help for you. That's saskmyo.com, saskmyo.com. You talked about faith, and I guess that my question really is I wanted to ask, what you listed Joe Ehrman's Inside Out coaching book on your website as a key resource, and he really talks about being able to answer those 4 key questions. And so my question really is does faith play a key role in why you coach?
Yeah, 100%. Billy Graham, a great evangelist, once said that a coach will impact more people in 1 year than most people will in their entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
And coaching affords us this opportunity to build into young people. And it's so easy to get caught up in the wins and losses, and to attach our identity to the results. In fact, I was just having dinner last night with an NBA coach, and we were talking about that very thing, and how difficult it is, not just at lower levels of play, at every level of play, and even at the highest levels of play, where there's so much fame and attention and media, how difficult it is to not let what you do become who you are. And particularly in North America, where we attach our identity to our work, and we're so individualistic in our thinking that what really defines us is our success. And so, I've attempted to separate out as much as possible who I am from what I do. And it's not easy. I wrestle with that as well. But for me, coming on back to your question of faith in sport, I love to help athletes separate out as well who they are from what they're doing, and separate out, their performance from their identity. Because at some point in time, the ball is going to stop bouncing, and then who are you? So for me, from a faith perspective, faith plays an integral role in my coaching, and it goes back to why we do it in the first place, and really where we're sourcing anything from. And for me, it's attempt to source things from a place of how can I help others, and coaching is just a great way to help others in their journey, particularly young people who are trying to find their way and trying to grow into who they want to become.
I'm really curious about when you're talking about young people and helping them find their way and separating, you talked about, who they are from what they do. Can you help us, for other coaches or anybody listening that they're trying to help people with their true identity, their God-given identity, and not, I'm a basketball player. What kind of steps or what is it scripture, or how do you walk that young athlete through that?
Yeah, it probably depends on whether there's an opportunity to be really overt and open with your faith or not. And so I've been in both settings. So when I was coaching at the elementary school and public high school that my kids attended, that's not the environment in which you want to be overly overt about your faith. I would certainly make references about my faith, but from a coaching standpoint, in front of the athletes, it's not something where it would be as direct, as much as indirect in individual conversations, one-on-one. But helping them to separate out their performance from their identity, I think one of the easiest ways, whether you can be overt about your faith or not, is to speak to their character. And because character is transferable regardless of what they do, regardless of how they perform. And so, when you talk about someone being a hard worker or being disciplined, or their approach or their positivity or their energy giving or their precision or how they take responsibility, any of those things, the more you speak to those character traits and character qualities, the more they see themselves as being a person who possesses those things, not just somebody who possesses a great jump shot and can defend and can finish at the rim. And so as much as possible, as a coach, I've attempted to do my best to see beyond the skills and see what are the character traits that they're living out each day, and particularly to look for opportunities to speak to even beyond those character traits that are still, hard work and positivity and precision. Those are all great, but to actually spotlight and highlight and call out in them the ones that are outward focused. What type of teammate they're being, what type of leader they're being. Because a teammate and leader then becomes really transferable. If they can see themselves as a great teammate, if they can see themselves as a great leader, when they step out and the ball stops bouncing, hopefully they're not just seeing themselves as a basketball player, they're seeing themselves as a teammate and leader, which then is completely transferable to who they're going to be in their family, who they're going to be at school, and who they're going to be in their job one day.
Can I build on that? So I think that's fantastic. So just speaking to their character and especially the outward side, which as we know, these are the transferable things when the ball stops bouncing, as you mentioned. These are the pieces when they go for a job interview or they're making an application, maybe they're having some self-doubt, that they're able to, oh yeah, but I remember coach always reminded me like how much of a hard worker I am, how great of a teammate I was, how, whatever it might be. And those are the pieces that are going to carry them after their competition on the court, not necessarily their jump shot. And so it's great. I get the sense that you believe that character is a skill that we can develop. And I my question on that is, how does somebody go about developing character? Because I know we know how to develop a jump shot or, deception moves or things like that.
Yeah, I heard one say, and I think it's far from the truth. Sports doesn't build character; it reveals character. Well, I think the opposite is true. It certainly can reveal character, but sports is an amazing training ground to build character. I think that's why, if we were actually to ask most parents why they put their kids in sports, it's for the life lessons and for the things that they can develop that go beyond just the skills of the sport. And so I think those character qualities, are so important as a coach to hone in on. Justin, just come on back to your question. Started to go down a wavelength there.
Yeah, this is a good wavelength, because I think, as we talked about already in Joe Ehrman's Inside Out Coaching book, he actually says the greatest myth in North America today is that sports develop character. And he said they ought to, and they absolutely can, but you cannot give away as a coach that which you do not possess. So he's like, so it requires a coach who possesses character to use sport with intentionality to develop character. Yeah. And that was one of my question to you is, like, we've all seen the coaches, we've all been coached by the coaches that unfortunately have a strong outward display of their lack of character. And, but I think character is a skill that can be taught. And so how do we do that with our young athletes? Yes, we need to possess it. As coaches, we need to go through that inside out process ourselves. But how do we do it with our athletes?
Yep. I think one of the key areas and I think Joe is absolutely right in his statement, that character doesn't get developed because coaches tend to focus on, and we gravitate towards, what our athletes are doing versus how they're doing what they're doing. And when you focus on the how are they doing, that's actually where I think the greatest character development opportunities arise. So if we were to think of something, a specific example where a player is doing something on court, could be any sport, but we'll just use basketball for right now. I spent years coaching soccer and played lots of different sports, but using basketball, if a player is just in a layup line and just focused on themselves and getting frustrated because they just missed the last 2 or 3 layups, well, a lot of times we don't think about, okay, where is the character in that, or where is the character development opportunity? What they're doing, be really easy as a coach to just focus on, hey, put it higher off the backboard. Hey, concentrate more. But that's just what they're doing. How they're doing what they're doing, in that moment, they're zooming into themselves. They're going inward, as opposed to looking outward and realizing they're about to go to the end of the line. And while they're feeling frustrated, there's an opportunity to encourage a teammate. There's an opportunity to remind a teammate. There's probably an opportunity to give a high five to a teammate. There's an opportunity to be an energy giver to the others so that they concentrate more and are more enthusiastic about what they're doing. And so there's a world of opportunity to focus on how they're doing what they're doing. But as coaches, a lot of times we'll just focus on the technical. We're going to correct. Hey, higher off the backboard. Hey, keep your eyes on the rim. As opposed to, hey, where is your focus right now? Because you're self-focused. You're actually being selfish right now. You're actually stealing energy from the team by focusing inward. Get your eyes off yourself and look outward. Who can you be encouraging? Who can you be reminding? Who can you be celebrating? Because it's not about you. And those types of, now that can be done with kind of a reprimand, or it could be done with just some encouragement. Hey, where's your focus right now? Hey, put your focus on others. Hey, put your focus on others. There's an opportunity here. Don't miss the opportunity. So I think character is best developed when coaches don't just focus on what their athletes are doing, but when they focus on how their athletes are doing what they're doing. And when you focus on the how, you can then look at all sorts of different character traits that can be developed. And I think there's There's probably hard work, positivity, all of those things are terrific. But I think one of the greatest values that a player can develop through sports and walk away with is the ability to look beyond themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Ability to look beyond themselves when things aren't going well, when they're disappointed, when they're frustrated. And I think those are the opportunities as coaches that we can miss out on most, but when focused on, can help players to grow the most and develop their character the most.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Grit and Growth podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's guest and the answers that they were able to give and the stories they were able to tell. If you did enjoy today's episode, we'd ask that you would just follow or subscribe to our podcast. It does help us get the word out and our message. Thanks again. Have a great day.